So you're at a crossroads in your relationship. Let's talk about this. This is a really real thing. It's a real thing. You love each other deeply. There is nothing wrong in the relationship. The relationship is going super well. But now you have competing. And by the way, I haven't been punching anyone. I was doing stuff at the beach, in the ocean, on the sand, and grazed my knuckles. You have competing non-negotiable values. Let's use an example, like a very real life example. A client actually spoke about this, and this was really painful for them. She was at a place in her life where she wanted children. She had been together with her partner for 3 years. They were deeply connected and in love. For all intents and purposes, they just wanted to be together. They cared for each other. They were a great fit. He didn't want children. The issue of the biological clock and age, that's a separate issue, and I have a perspective on that. Yes, it plays a role in all of our lives, biology does, but I really do believe, side note, that culture and society has demonized the female body to such an extent where the biological clock is ticking, the fear of God is in us, and it's not healthy the way that we see birth and pregnancy and that whole process and the pressure that we put on females and the female body. And the female body is so much more in tune and intuitive and articulate than we may think. There's an amazing practitioner, again, this is a side note, a Dr. Cleo, and you can check her out, and she is epic, and she has a Primester protocol, and she is a leading doctor in this space, and helping women become healthily pregnant beyond the age of 40. And so there's some fallacy and misconception, and that was a side note, right? But let me go back to the story. So this woman is approaching 40, and for her, and this matters because for her it was a concern, but she really wanted children. He didn't. He had a child from a previous relationship, and for whatever reason he didn't want children. And now they're at a crossroads. Do we stay together? We love each other. We haven't done anything wrong to each other. Not one of us haven't been dishonest or haven't cheated or aren't abusive, or we don't hate each other. We align in every other area of our lives. But this thing that is so important, and you replace the wanting children with something else. Maybe it's wanting to move to a different place. Maybe it's a familial dynamic. Whatever it may be, right? What's a non-negotiable for you? Maybe your partner is going on a self-destructive track. Heroin, alcoholism, workaholism, whatever, some extreme behavior, whatever it may be, gaming, whatever it may be, spending time with other people and but for all intents and purposes, the rest of the relationship is really connected. Now, this woman shared that she really loved this man and she didn't want to break up, but she did break up because the relationship was pushing on one of her non-negotiables and her highest values, and that was sharing a family in that particular way with a man. That was really hard for her because she loved this man and he loved her, and they did not want to break up. They did not want to break up, but they did. And the question is, should you? But there are layers to this question, because what the question is asking is should we compromise our highest values? Should we compromise ourselves? Should we minimize ourselves and maximize the other? Now, there are so many variables that feed into this. Is it one of your patterns to sacrifice yourself? Is it one of your patterns to minimize who you are in the world and to forget about what your needs are? Maybe you grew up in a codependent relationship with your mother or your father. Let's say it was your mother, and there was an enmeshment, entanglement, and parentification there where you constantly minimize what you needed to make mum happy. Because mum was so depressed or sad, or she was going through her own anxiety or her own issues, or she had issues with her husband, your father, and that projected on you, and there was this emotional entanglement and projection of emotional spousing onto you, and that became your pattern. You realize that how you receive love is by giving yourself away, is by minimizing yourself, by losing yourself in the relationship or the eyes of another's needs. So if that's a pattern for you, is it wise to continue to sacrifice yourself? Is that a healthy attribute you want to continue to play out in relationship and in the world? What if this non-negotiable is so important to you, yet you care so deeply and are so connected to this person? What do you do? Now, I don't have an answer for you. Can't tell you should leave or you shouldn't. But what I can say is compromising yourself, minimizing yourself, losing yourself in relationship, forgetting about your truth and who you are, it actually doesn't add value to the relationship. Because unless you can truly, deeply release that part of you, you will carry resentment. This woman made a self-honoring choice. Her values, and they were important to her, to have a family, to have a child, to give birth with someone that she loved and cared for was everything to her. So much so that she broke up with this gentleman. They were engaged. She had to let that relationship go. Was she right? Was she wrong? Could you call her crazy? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe her self-worth was so high, she believed in herself so much, she had so much trust in her path that, albeit so painful, so fearful, so much unknown, she knew what she wanted and what she needed, and that level of attentiveness to self, that level of deliberate attentiveness, of certainty, was more important to her than compromising what she needed. Where you may be compromising yourself in relationship and in life, not believing in who you are, not valuing your needs, letting them go, building resentment, losing part of yourself, because it chips away at you. You know, often you'll hear people say that have lost a child, physically have lost a child, so they are a parent and their child dies young. That old saying, no parent should have to bury their child. And you'll often hear people say a piece of me has gone when that child left, or even a loved one. Now, there's something to be said for that, in parallel with when we give up who we truly are, what we truly want and desire in life, a part of us is missing. And we bring a fractured, fragmented sense of self into the relationship. Now, is that what the person wants? Are you really giving them a whole, full version of you? Are you showing up in absolute integrity? Maybe absolute is an absolute term and it never happens. That's difficult to achieve. But are you showing up in integrity? Are you showing up in truth? Are you offering your partner the fullest version of yourself because you're honoring who you are? Now, sacrifice is an interesting term in relationship. Does it even exist? Where is it on the spectrum? There's no black and white with it. And yes, compromise in relationship exists. Should sacrifice exist? I'll let you think about that. What level shall we or should we sacrifice? Can we sacrifice? Is it healthy to sacrifice? Because when we sacrifice ourselves, we're also denying our partners of something. Because we're not in our joy. And if we're not in our joy, they're not receiving the fullness of us. They're not receiving this whole version of us. So it may appear to you, maybe not, that I'm making an argument or a position. I'm stating a position for being truthful to who you are. Being honest in your non-negotiables, honoring the fullness of who you are. And yeah, I am making a statement for that. How you do that? Well, that's a different conversation. Why you would do that? That's up to you. But we need to honor ourselves. And these honest conversations are necessary. And yes, they're character building. Yes, they cultivate resilience, strength, deeper sense of self, a richness in character. They evolve us. Painful situations evolve us. Fear can evolve us, help us grow, see better versions of ourselves in the world, be more connected to our truth, love ourselves at a deeper level, and therefore allow others to love us, give and receive in greater equanimity. Be more profound in our presence. Appreciate who we are and appreciate others, be in deeper levels of gratitude. However, this is a process. And it begins with honoring who we are, making the tough decisions that sometimes we don't know where we're going. We can't see the forest through the trees. We can't see that path that's laid out for us, but we know that being in this position in this time, no matter how beautiful parts of it are, it's dishonoring. And we know that we will do more harm than good, more damage. And we will be in greater pain and cultivate deeper levels of fear. And we will bring that into the relationship and that resentment and the anger and the frustration. And so if you can, quote unquote, let go, detach, shift genuinely your values and non-negotiables, so that's a different story. But if you can't, you must ask yourself, am I being truthful in this relationship? Am I serving myself, my partner, the relationship, and the highest versions, evolutions, and future versions of myself and humanity? Truth is important. You get to decide how important.